Right?
I'll send it to him in a second.
Okay, good.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fiestra, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered.
When they are consuming your minds and your thoughts and your dreams, from the angels to the demons and to the mysteries unseen, there is no need to worry. There is no need for dread. It's just time to discuss the thing at the foot of the bed.
Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
Hark out the bells, sweet silver bells, all seem to say throw cares away. Christmas is here, bringing good cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong ding dong, that is the song with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they bound, raising the sound, all in the dales, telling their song. Glory, glory, in excelsis Deo. Glory, glory, hark how the bells all seem to say. Christmas is here, bringing the cheer to young and old, meek and the bold. Ding dong ding dong, that is the song with joyful ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they pound, raising the sound, all in a dance and in a tent. Hey, 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 while people sing songs of good cheer, Christmas is here. Hey, 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 while people sing songs of good cheer, Christmas is here. Glory, in excelsis Deo. Glory, glory, all seem to say Christmas is here, bringing good cheer. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they pound, raising the sound, all in a dance, telling their song. Hey, 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 while people sing songs of good cheer, Christmas is here. Hey, 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 while people sing songs of good cheer, Christmas is here. Hark how the bells all seem to say Christmas Christmas is here, bringing good cheer. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, honeymoon, raising the sound, blowing a tale, telling the tale. Ringing the ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ringing the ring, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Merry, merry, merry Christmas. Merry, 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 merry Christmas. All of this and all without end, pleasure to every home. Hark how the bells all seem to say, ding dong, ding dong.
This kid with
That is their
with the
song.
ding dong just cracks me up, man. Just cracks me up. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Authors Quill. I hope y'all enjoyed that little Christmas music as we get ready for the year, for the season, which we are 13 days, right? No, not even that, 11 days. I'm sorry, but here we are. So Merry effing Christmas to everybody. I'm not going to say Happy Holidays because you can just kiss it. If you want me to say Happy Kwanzaa, that's fine, or any other happy religion, that's fine too. But I'm not real politically correct, so we're not going to go there. But welcome
So you
everyone
got
to Authors Quill.
Tim's there waiting to get in now. He just called me.
Okay, well I sent him the link. I'll send it to him
Yeah,
again. Hold on.
he said he sees his picture now. He clicked the link, so he should be there.
No, he's not in with us. I think he's got to click it one more time. I think he's in the room before this one. Because he's not in here with us, so we'd see him right here next to us.
Okay, then I'm going to call him back.
Yeah, you know how it is when you first come in. Oh, there he is, right there. We got him.
Okay, good.
Oh, we got the sexy beast, man. There he is. There he is. Welcome, everyone. Mr. Tim Powell's with us. You looking good, baby. You looking good.
And I hope you can hear me.
We do.
Yeah, I can hear you good. I can hear you good.
Excellent.
I'm just, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, I was just saying, because you're looking good, sexy beast, man. How you been?
Oh, real well. Same as ever.
Life treating you good? You enjoying the winter time, I should say?
I like summer better.
I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going to argue. What part of the country are you in?
Southern California, San Bernardino.
Oh, well, what? Come on. You don't get no weather down there, man. Give me a break.
It rains sometimes.
Oh, yeah, like what, once a year?
It drops below 70 degrees. We pull our coats out.
Yes,
Oh, my
exactly. Yeah.
God.
And if it's below 60, you don't go outside at all.
I mean, I live in the deep south. I live so south you can't even go any further south because the water's there. But still, y'all got a better climate than we do. I think last night it was today it's 65 and sunny. It's actually just beautiful outside right now. But the last 2 days it's been like mid 40s and at night, mid 50s in the daytime, and kind of druggy because it was cloudy. It's weird down here. If it's cloudy, it's cold. If it's sunny, it's hot. It doesn't matter.
Well,
But
Emily's
how
been
cold
in Las
is it?
Vegas. Today's her last day of the Western show, and in the morning because she gets up at 6 to come in because the show starts at 8, and it's been like 28, 29 degrees out there when she gets up. And goes outside.
It shouldn't even be cold. It should just be wrong that it's even cold in Vegas. I mean, I've never been there when it's cold. I've been there a lot, but I've never been there when it's cold.
Yeah,
I really hadn't done that much gambling there, to be honest with you. But it's never been. I don't know. It's never been cold there. Now, I did go to Fallon, Nevada, for the bombing derby a couple times when I was in the Navy, and it was cold there once or twice. Matter of fact, I think it even snowed one year. I was like, "What? This is Nevada. Where's the snow coming from?"
there's some good skiing in Nevada, but look at Tim's room there. That's a special
I know. I was
room
looking
he's
at
got there. That's like crazy cool.
It's where the computer is.
It's got every damn book and its mama in there, man.
I should tilt the camera. There's a bridge overhead connecting the bookshelves on this wall with the bookshelves on that wall.
Oh, shit.
And if the bridge ever comes down, and of course the bridge has books on both sides all along. If it ever comes down, I think I'll be killed.
Be squished. Hey, well, if you got to go, that's for an author, that's not a bad way to go. Murder by books. I mean,
Yeah.
there's worse ways to go, man. So, you got anything new? What you working on? Anything? I know you're getting ready for writers, right? What we got, 4 months or something?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Giving a lot of thought to how we'll handle that. Any possible improvements there might be.
Oh man, you're one
And
of
in
my
the mean,
favorite instructors there, man. Teachers, whatever you want to call it.
and yeah, in the meantime, I'm about 2/3 done with the current book, which takes place in Paris in the 20s, and of course involves supernatural stuff.
But of
That
course,
sounds interesting. Well, that's
They
that
always
sounds interesting.
always do.
yeah. So when's it going to be done? Because maybe we can I can read a galley, an ARC of the thing, and we can talk about it as part of the release. I've been doing that more and more of late, with authors that have their books coming out, and we talk about it as part of the release program, because the podcast now is up quite a bit.
Yeah, it won't be anywhere close to out by the time of Writers of the Future.
No, it's whenever it's going to be, whenever you're going to have it ready.
Oh yeah.
No, it'll be a separate thing. We just do it. We just do the interview, and that will time it so that the interview comes out when the book hits the shelves, and use that to help generate some more sales.
Always a good idea.
I think so. So your last book that came out, I haven't read that one yet. Unfortunately, because I read a book a week pretty much for just keeping up with the next podcast.
Huh.
I'm in the middle of 4 books right now, getting ready for podcast in the beginning of January. But what was that one about?
It was about the Bronte sisters, Emily, Anne, and Charlotte, who, of course, wrote Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, and they lived very remotely out on the Yorkshire moors. And according to me, they got tangled up in lots of scary supernatural stuff.
But of course,
stands to reason.
It's definitely, you find those holes and you just fill them.
Yeah.
Nature abhors a vacuum, and you fill that vacuum pretty well.
Yeah, and it always, I sort of approach it as a cold case detective. I think, what was really going on here?
Yeah.
And so I look at all the clues and I conclude what was really going on. And it turns out always to be something supernatural.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Open that door, lift up that grate, remove that star in the Walk of Fame, and there you go.
Yeah, happens all by itself.
Yes. So are you guys staying home over the holidays, or are you going off anywhere?
Pretty much home. We'll go to my sister's house for a big family thing with 6 of my 7 siblings and 1 million grandchildren and nieces and nephews and all that. It's always a very good time.
Yes.
Yes. It's funny you were saying that, because you're talking about the 20s and France and all. And a friend of ours last night, he's a regular on the network. I've actually met him in Las Vegas, is where I met him. And he's a producer. And he's got a movie coming out based in the 20s in France, paranormal-based movie with some scary, wicked stuff that went on back then. He's got the guy from Eddie and the Cruisers in it. And, oh, God, I can't remember his name. He's a fairly big actor. It sounds very interesting. So you reminded me when you said that. And it kind of, every now and then I see these synchronicities where I see people working similar areas. And usually when I see that, they're usually almost always really good when they come out. It's like the world. It's like something in the world says, I need something like this told or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's just weird. But I talked to so many authors and different artists and different people over the years. It kind of gets like an intuition. Of course, it's easy for you. We already know you're going to have a good book. So that's just a given. People like John and I don't think we could write between us, man. I think we'd have some issues. Even though John probably knows all the basics of it very well. And I've learned a lot listening to y'all, I got to say. But I think my biggest problem is, and always will be, my brain works faster than my little fat fingers.
Aha.
And I'll go back and proofread sometimes, and I'll have left out entire paragraphs.
Yeah.
It's going through my head, but for somehow or another, it never made it. So I said, "No, this isn't for me. I'm giving it up before I destroy some expensive equipment or something."
Ha. Well, first drafts are supposed to be a mess.
Well, and I notice authors, most of the authors I meet are fairly patient people. So that's got to help some. I mean, not all of them. I have met some that are kind of high strung, but for the most part, I find the illustrators quite a bit more high strung than the authors are. Authors seem to have a better, just how can I say this? I like a more even keeled movement in life. Like they're going from point A to point B to point C without all this extra turmoil. Not to say there's not some, but when you look at the illustrators, it's like a whirlwind or something.
Yeah, I think you're right. Authors tend, I think, to be lazy.
I wouldn't say that.
I remember Paul Anderson said that an author's family has to realize that he's working even when he's napping on the couch.
Well, that's true. That's a good way of looking at it, because that's true. Your imagination's ongoing all the time.
Well, I don't know if it's true, but it's useful to have people imagine it's true.
Well, I mean, most of the authors I know, when I ask them how to get their ideas and stuff, I'll just be sitting there and bam, it's in my head, and then they start working on it. I'm like, what do you mean, bam, it's in your head? Or I'll see something like, oh, you know what? I can turn this and then off they go or something. It's. I wish I had that kind of imagination. I'm jealous of y'all, to be honest with you.
Well, I was talking to Nedia Corfor, I don't know, it's been a year or two now, and we discussed that, just the whole idea of what she considers her creative time, her writing time isn't just the fingers on the keyboard. It's also when she's in there in the kitchen making lunch or dinner. She's like, things are percolating and just going around doing things. For her, it's easier for things to like a natural flow that she's able to then come up with the ideas that she does, because she's also in her special world of fantasy that she does. Have you read any of her stuff, Tim?
No, she's too new.
Yeah. So
I said that. I'm not laughing.
But it's amazing just what she does, because she's in the African futurism, so she's a whole fantasy world of fantasy there. But it's interesting. So I'll use this as a little bridge over here. I'm getting ready to interview Steve Smith, who's the publisher of Oasis Audio, and one of the audiobooks he sent me to listen to so I could hear it is one from McDonald. Jim McDonald, the fantasy author, the one from several hundred years ago?
Oh, George MacDonald?
It's a hymn, right, George?
Yeah. He wrote Fantasties.
Yeah, that's what I'm listening to right now, and it's amazing. Just I mean, his voice is just amazing. His storytelling and his language and the poetic prose that he uses as he's writing.
He was great.
He was amazing. Just I'm only about a couple hours into the story listening to it, but this is my first time reading / listening to one of his stories, and I'm just amazed at what a brilliant author he is. But then looking at how he inspired, so many other famous authors as a result, I was like, wow, now I understand.
That's true. Yeah. C.S. Lewis, J.R.R. Tolkien, all kinds of people learned from him.
Yeah.
What's that, Carolyn? Mr. Tim Powers, yes. What do you mean? Why do you know his name? Because he's famous. That's why you know his name.
He's the 2-time World Fantasy Award winner. He also wrote a book.
Actually.
Three. There we go.
Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. He also wrote a book that was used by Johnny Depp with his Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. That was his book as well.
It's see, without him, y'all wouldn't even have that. Y'all should be grateful. I know a lot of you weirdos in here, watch them kind of movies. So I'm just kidding. Right to John. No, right to John. Sorry.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Very glad they did that.
Yeah.
Well, it sure turned into a whirlwind. That's for sure. It's and then we got to see Johnny Depp afterwards. He was just fun to watch all the way around, even in the movies and in personal life. He's just
Yeah.
fun to watch.
Yeah, we got to chat with him briefly during the filming of that movie. Talked about Hunter Thompson and Fatty Arbuckle, as I recall.
He's
So
definitely a
what's he like
character.
what was he like in real life?
Well, it was just brief, but he was very amiable, cheerful, friendly. It would have been nice to talk to him for more than, I don't know, 90 seconds, but yeah, he was great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
imagine
I've heard
everybody
stories
around
of him
was
going to hospitals dressed as Jack Sparrow, going in there and doing things for kids in the cancer wards and whatnot, and just
Yeah.
Well, he seems like he enjoys life. I mean, that's a plus. I mean, it's always good to enjoy your life, whatever it happens to be. It's
So I'm curious, Tim, just as a bridge over now on your stories, if like, and for other people listening, especially people that are writers, like, because you take a storyline and so you do a lot of research and you get, you find some factual piece of history that you delve into, and then you find these holes which aren't defined. There's no data on it, and you plug it in. How does that process go? How much time do you spend on research to really get the facts and establish that these really are holes that you can fill in without being challenged?
Yeah, you don't want to, ideally, you don't want to accidentally contradict some bit of actual history.
Right.
But what I do is I'll usually just in idle entertainment nonfiction reading, I'll stumble across some anomaly, something where a historical character did something that made no sense, completely counterproductive. And all the historians can say is, I don't know, maybe he was drunk. I don't know why he did that. And I'll tell myself, I'll bet I can figure out why he did it. History recorded what he did, but missed on the motivation. And if I find two or three things like that in one time and place, I'll think, you know what, maybe you could hang a plot on this. And then I get my plots from the research. I don't approach a story with like a plot in mind. I'll say, this looks like a fruitful time and place in history. Read up on it and discover what your plot is. So I look for things that are too cool not to use. And if I can find 20 or 30 things in a time and place and characters that are too cool not to use, then by definition, I've got 20 or 30 pieces of my eventual book. I just got to connect the dots.
Right.
I make it sound kind of automatic.
No, but the problem you've got to do is like when you have history, and I've gone over this a few times on recent interviews I've been doing, is nonfiction doesn't have to make sense, doesn't have to be believable. It just has to be a factual sequence of events. You've got to now put together a story that the reader is willing to suspend any disbelief and to make it come across like, that's interesting. I can see that, so that so that it works.
Yeah, that's especially a challenge for science fiction and fantasy because you're imposing on the reader's credulity, their suspension of disbelief. So you got to shore it up at every point so that ideally the reader will say, that makes sense. Sure, it naturally follows. Of course, half an hour after they finish the book, they might say, wait a second. But by then they're already out in the parking lot, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing too is with, when you write your fictional story, it's got to be, you can't cheat the reader from at the ending either. So like, I've used the example of how World War I started, then, they botched the assassination attempt, but then they went and made a turn and they got lost, and then they got a flat tire, and the guy that was trying to assassinate him was in the a bar right by where the tire went flat. So he came out and saw that there was Prince Ferdinand and his wife, and he shot him. And there you started World War I. It's like, come on, that's a cheat to have that as the ending of the story. So you can't do that, even though history, in fact, does that.
Yeah. A lot of times, a beginning writer will, when you say that wasn't believable, they'll say, but it really happened. And well, that's no excuse.
Right.
I mean, reality is no good as far as a story goes. Reality, I mean, that's why we want fiction, because reality is so full of stumbles and missteps and disappointments.
Let's just be honest. Reality sucks. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was rude. Go ahead.
But it's true, and so, because I was talking to somebody about writing nonfiction, he said nonfiction is actually easier to write than fiction for that very reason.
Yeah. It's constantly holding up something here for the reader to concentrate on while you slide something else in under the door. Yeah.
I interviewed Mike Cole. Maybe you remember him from. Yeah. So he was writing a bunch of nonfiction. I mean, a lot of science fiction, and he switched over now to writing nonfiction. And the fiction books, you get the last page and the end, and then that's it. There's no more pages on the end of it. But when you have a nonfiction book, then you got 18 pages of citations in a nonfiction book. Yeah. And I asked him about that, and he said, it's a lot more. You've got to it does require that you go in and give some explanation of why did they do that? Because he did his most recent book that just released talked about the last knights in England, and they had muskets, but they also wore all the full armor, and they're the last ones to do that. And it's all, the whole book is written in just in a couple weeks period, and their whole thing was just in a big part of the book was just the last day, the last battle. And you could take that, but it's just, he just said it's, all the research, and for him it's important because it's it's the end of a whole era of England and the last of the knights, but it's it was just a weird thing. He said, well, maybe, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, somebody will read that that and now I understand why that happened, why they had that last battle with that, and just to him that's important to be able to do that.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
It's like I like that fencing was only developed after guns came into wide prevalence.
Really?
Yeah, because after guns were widely available, there was no point wearing armor anymore. And so you couldn't count on your armor to deflect the bad guy's sword. You had to use your own sword to block it. And so the whole practice of fencing developed, parrying, riposting, all of that. It's fascinating the way these historical developments occur. The invention of chimneys, the invention of stirrups, all these things just drastically changed the society. And you think, what, stirrups, chimneys? How's that? And then it's fascinating to have some expert explain it.
Yeah, try having a house with a poorly built chimney that doesn't go up above the highest point of your roof, and you'll see the value of a chimney.
Right. Yeah. You can see them figuring that out. You know what? Let's have it go a little bit above the roof there. We're making a mess.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let somebody not install a flute correctly. It won't matter what kind of chimney you got. Yes, we actually install them from time to time. It's people. It's the little thing that you open and close, so when it rains, it doesn't flood out your house.
Yeah, somebody figured that out. Yeah, you know what would really help here if we had a little thing we could open and close. Oh yeah, right. Somebody write that down.
No, I had a lady call me one time because her house was just filling with smoke. I said, "Well, put the fire out, baby." She said, I'm trying, but it won't go out. I said, "Okay." I said, "Is there a guy around?" I said, "Because I don't want you sticking your hand." She said, "How hot is it?" She said, "Very." I said, "Well, you can't do it then." I said, you have to wait till it cools off. And then I had to go over there and show her. And I said, now, let me show you. I reached my hand up there and I pulled it. I said, now light your fire. And she was like, well, it's going up. I said, yes. I said, you didn't know this was here? I said, did you do a fire last year? She said, yeah. I said, did it smoke out your house? She said, I think once or twice we had to open the doors. I was like, I don't, there's no accounting for humans. I'm just saying there's some strange PC. They would make good books because they're,
Yeah.
I tell you what,
Yeah,
if you
I
ever
bet.
get stuck on paranormal stuff or weird stuff, the station manager on here, Michelle DeRoche, she's like one of the foremost experts. I hate to use the word expert, but she does a lot of TV because she's the one they call on to come analyze this or explain that or explain this. And she's been doing it for about 30, 35 years now. And she's really good. I call her the Elvira of Canada, which she hates because she's got, she's a redhead. She's, if you've seen her, you know why I call her that. But she's a character, but she knows a whole hell of a lot about a whole hell of a lot. And before that, you know what she used to do? She ran an oil company for a living. And before that, you would like her because she was a Coca-Cola girl.
Yeah, I should buy stock in Coca-Cola. I think
Oh, look, dude, I own stock. I drink. We drink a lot, not as much as I used to, but I still drink a lot. That's what's in that glass you see me lift up a little while ago was a Coke.
yeah,
And they do
in my
sponsor 2 shows on our network, not this one, but 2 other shows on our network.
yep. Hooray for Coke.
Yes, they. I keep trying to get them to sponsor this one. They're like, she said, Authors don't drink Coke. I'm like, really? I said, I said, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let it slide because Jimmy Reed is the guy we deal with over there. And he always tells me that. He goes, Authors don't drink Coke. They drink like Sprite and stuff and green tea. I said, dude, you're a crack, man. I'm telling you, I know one personally who drinks Coke. I said, come to think about it, every author I've met at Writers of the Future either drinks Coke or Pepsi. We don't want to say that P word, but or drinks Coke. I mean, I seen them at the, at BarCon and eating and stuff. They had a Coke in their hand. I either have a tea or a Coke in my hand, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. John over there swigging beer and stuff, man.
Black cherry, sparkling water.
All right.
He got some bourbon and they don't lie.
Yeah, in my youth, it was beer, but Jerry Purnell told me a writer shouldn't drink past 40.
Well,
Of course, he meant drink copiously.
I'm thinking Hemingway drank till they put him in a grave, right?
That's what you want to avoid.
Yes, and it's weird for me. I can drink like a fish because I'm from New Orleans, but I rarely do anymore. Since I was in I can't even remember when. It's been a long time. Like when I see them, I'll have, because when I see all of y'all, I can drink because I'm working press, so it's not the same as when I'm doing everything that I'm doing down here. And plus, everybody up there is nice and friendly and really good people. So I'm not really worried about somebody stealing something or robbing me or mugging me or anything, so I can relax. But, down here, it's a little different, especially when you're in the city of New Orleans, man. I'm not kidding. If you ever see me in the city of New Orleans, I'll be in jeans and a T-shirt usually because I'm doing work unless I'm business, and I'll be dressed like this. Either way, you'll see my 9mm or my 45 actually on my hip. That's how bad carjacking and robbing people has become in the city.
You're allowed to open carry?
Oh yeah, we're allowed all throughout the Gulf South. Yeah, all down here you can open carry. Matter of fact, you can go in most businesses and restaurants unless they specifically ask you not to carry, and even then you can force the issue. The only places they get mad is a bank or a casino, and you are allowed to. But you are allowed to wear it in the bank. I don't, because I don't want to cause any trouble, but you are allowed. And schools, you're not supposed to. Casinos is a big no-no.
I bet. Yeah.
They're a big no-no. And only one time I ever brought a gun in there was by accident. My wife was wearing my coat. Had a big down coat and had a little 25, like a cap gun looking thing. And it was in the pocket with it the entire time. And I reached in to hug her, and I'm like, son of a bleep, and we got to go out to the car. Because you get in big trouble down here if you get caught with a gun in a casino. That's like 5 years. But other than that, they don't care. You can carry anywhere you want. They just, and you know what? Just a real quick story so we can move on. I stopped one afternoon at a Brooklyn pizza place to get some pizza. I walk in, the girl in front of me is wearing a pink 380, and the girl in front of her is wearing a blue 9mm. And I'm like, okay, we're fashioning our guns, and these are just everyday girls carrying guns. And I actually have my 9 on it. I got a target gun. It's a Mechanic. It's a Turkish made gun. And this guy walks in, pulls out looked like I don't know, maybe a 357 and was going to rob the place. I turned around, look, both girls got their gun out. Excuse me? We think you should leave now. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, it's like the OK Corral down here. But the guy turned around, hauled ass out the store. They caught him down the road a little ways, but I was like, okay, it's about the third time I've seen someone pull a gun and somebody else have a gun and say, oh no, this is not going to go down this way. And it's scary because you never know these days, because a lot of people carry concealed, because you're allowed to carry concealed without a permit now. And
Without a permit, wow.
Without a permit, yeah. So you never know. Yeah, they call it constitutional carry throughout the South, which means you don't have to have a permit to carry your gun. You have to be legal and abide all laws, but you can pretty much. Matter of fact, anytime I get stopped, if I'm wearing mine, I tell a cop, my gun's on my side. Would you like me to pull it out? Would you like me to get out the car? Or sometimes it's in my door, and I'll say, hey, look, like there's two in my car. I say, well, there's one here, one in the back. Just don't want you to panic if you see the damn things. Because the one cop I'm in the show one day, he goes, what kind of clip you got in there? I said, oh, it's a 31 round clip. He's like, 31 rounds? Were you going to war? It's like, it's legal down here.
31 rounds?
31 rounds. It came with a 21 round clip. That's what it came with, was 21.
That sounds like you need a drum magazine.
No, it's about the A-line. It's a double. It's the double mag, side by side, but it's only about that wide, about that tall. I'd show you. It's in one of the other rooms. It's around here somewhere. But it's man, I bought it because I like to target shoot, and it's instead of buying a Glock and spending $2,000 on making it where I could target shoot, a good friend of mine who wins a lot of awards said, look, this Turkish made gun, as long as you use a high load powder, is a great target pistol. It's got 2.5 pound trigger on it. And by the way, the new guns don't come with safeties. What the hell is that about? That I don't even know what that's about. They want you to buy them trigger safety. That's why they don't put safeties on. But this thing is so accurate, and it's weird because it feels a little front heavy. And the reason it is when you push it to aim and you pull the trigger, the gun's going to raise a little bit. Well, the weight offsets it, so you rarely miss your target. I mean, as long as you got wrist strength, you'll hit your target almost every. I mean, a kid could get out there and do it. They're so damn accurate. I was sitting there. I set a record at the gallery down here, shooting 25 targets in 33 seconds. The guy was like, "Would you think you Wild Wild West?" I said, "No, damn thing's easy to shoot." And every time I see a cop, he wants to see it. Every time. Last time the two state troopers.
If I carried it, every cop I met would want to see it too.
Yeah, well, I bet you where you are, they would want to see it. I thought about bringing mine down here a couple of times, but y'all got that 9-round clip thing. And I don't even know if I can buy a 9-round clip for this gun. I don't know if they make one. And I read your law closely. I can't have a 21-round clip in there with 9 rounds in it. That don't count. They'll put you in jail for that. It's got to be a 9-round clip. It can only hold 9 rounds. I was like, well, what kind of bullshit is this? And so one day, if I decide to bring it, I'll call the manufacturer and see if they actually make one. But see, Wild Wild West stories. When you come down here in the South for a while, you be writing all kind of weird stuff between Bigfoot, Ghost, the Honey Island Swamp Monster. Man, you have all kind of good stuff to write about. It's a plus. It's the OK crowd these days. Jessica, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody's asking a question, but it wasn't related to this. Friday nights, we get a lot of blow by from the Friday night show. It's John's fault. He gets on there and says these outlandish things, and people just write to us like, what?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. No, real quick, that was Giovanni Stefani. He's in Shangri-La right now. No, sure. Did I say Shangri-La? I'm sorry. Sri Lanka. He's just where he's at right now. Yeah, he's there. You can catch up with him. Anyway, getting back to what we talked. So I've never asked you this. So I know you've been writing for a long time. So what was it? I mean, did you start as a kid? You start as a young man? Did you just say one day, I'm going to be a writer and I'm going to be an author and this is how it's going to be? Or did you get a wild idea? Did your mama smack you and say, son, I want you to be an author? I'm just curious. How did you get from where they are from there to here?
Oh, ever since I read first book I ever read, which was a thing called Timothy Turtle, kid's book about a turtle that gets turned over on his back and all his woodland friends have to help him get upright again. Not, any kind of profound book, but it made an impression on me when I was like 5.
Yeah.
And then when I was 9, my mom got me a Heinlein novel. And from then on, it was all science fiction and fantasy, and it was the only career I thought would be any fun or worthwhile or worth doing at all. And so I started getting rejection slips from magazines, and then sold my first book when I was 23 and quit school, quit work, figured I could live on $2,000 a year. And very quickly that publisher fell apart and I had to go back to work. But then another publisher took something, and it's been bumpy but fairly steady ever since.
It's not, two things I always tell people: as long as you're happy with what you're doing and it's supporting you, why change anything? My dad used to always tell me, "Don't fix something if it ain't broke," and he's right about that.
I've always figured it's the most worthwhile thing a person can do. I mean, it'd be great to be, an astronaut or the Pope or something, but being a writer is better.
I've talked to a lot of astronauts over the years. It'd be funny. It's funny how many of them got into it by accident. I'm like, what do you mean by accident? Oh, I was a test pilot. I was just doing test pilot stuff. And one day, come test fly these things for us. And next thing I knew, I was in a damn centrifugal force thing trying to rip my head off. I'm like, what's going on? He's, you're going to be an astronaut. That was Edgar Mitchell actually told me that. He was like, I'm going to be a what? I'm going to be an astronaut.
Yeah, it's interesting when writers fall into writing, having, already had careers. I think of Raymond Chandler, who was, oil company executive in LA till I believe he got fired for alcoholism and thought, oh, well, I'll write mystery novels. And that turned out to be what he should have been doing all along. Or Dick Francis, who was a jockey and had to retire because of injuries and thought, oh, well, I guess I'll write books, and turned out to be an absolutely brilliant writer. But I just never figured there was ever going to be anything else anyway.
Well, see, that's good. From a young age. I mean, a lot of people wish they could do that. Because people used to ask me, what are you going to do? I'm like, what do you mean, what am I going to do?
Anybody can do it if they're willing to ditch all responsibility and sensible planning for the future.
Well, I'm guilty of that, so I'm probably right along with you. But
how much did Serena have to help shore up the financial sides while you're getting yourself going?
Well, by the time I got married, I had 4 books published.
Okay.
So I was already rolling. Certainly there were times when the writing income bottomed out and she was working as a legal secretary. And there were certainly times when her paycheck, floated us over the reefs. It's always.
Oh, it always is. It always is.
Because with Kevin and Rebecca, they were just writing, and they set themselves a goal of putting a year's worth of expenses in reserves before they quit their day job. Wow. And then they both quit, and then because they figure if they give them a year to move forward and start generating enough income on both of their writing to be able to cover operating expenses, which worked for them. So that was what they did.
Yeah, that's pretty. Also, a year. That's awfully optimistic. I mean, publishers pay so late.
Well, imagine the competition's got to be fierce. There's so many more people out there writing, and there's so many more venues to get your work out there now. I mean,
true.
I mean, a lot of these people make it, and they don't go to a traditional publisher. They just go out on their own, and some of them actually do quite well for themselves. I've even been noticing some like news people have taken to doing that now. Oh, hell, I'm not going to be on Fox or ABC. I'm just going to go out on my own and do this. And they're making more money than they were.
Yeah. And I guess in music, that's real true.
That is true.
Yeah, all the technology is,
It's changing it.
Yeah, go get it at Kmart.
Then you got companies like Spotify and all of them who are promoting people. There's a lot of money in it now. It's definitely changing now. And
Yeah.
audio
I just read
books.
this last week in Publishers Weekly how what's the name, the musician, she just finished the Eras tour, the singer.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, Taylor Swift. She released a book on the Eras tour, and it was a featured Target book. She sold in 2 days. They sold 385,000 copies, and because it wasn't, because Target isn't listed with BookScan, it didn't count on any bestseller list. But her book sold more than all the top however many on the bestseller list combined. But so things are definitely changing the whole, landscape of book sales. You've got your traditional, which is what your favorite form of publishing is, Tim. But there's these other things too that are equally as viable ways to do that.
Yeah. I do, being an old guy, prefer to go with the traditional publishers.
Well, they probably got the more money too.
Not necessarily, but it's
who knows? I mean, you hear about people like Andy Weir, and you think, but my main reason for it is I just want to write the book. I want to sit right here and write a book and then send it off as an email attachment to a publisher and start thinking about the next book. I don't really want to develop a sort of side career as publicist, PR man, generating, Twitter presence, Snapchat, etc. It strikes me that almost becomes a second career. And when I've heard writers talk about all the promotion activities that they consider necessary, I think, well, you're so good at that, you should have some writer hire you. But yeah, I always take solace from something Eric Flint once said. He said, the best way to promote a book you've written is to write another book. And I think, okay, good. I like that. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. It was funny, just at the beginning of the workshops, for the winners, we got you and Jody up there. And Jody is she's a total proponent for going out there, and she's a guest of honor. She does the panels. She does the whole convention routine. And she says, well, the value of this is this. And then you get up there and you go, well, I'm not really into that. My job as a writer to write the book, and somebody else who gets paid, they can go do that too. And and that's one of the things that the winners love, is that it's not a thing like, hey, this is how you do it. It's like,
right,
there's all these different options you can take, and you can pick and choose. It's an a la carte activity with writers of the future, that what works for you. And maybe you say, oh, I want this now. And then in a couple of years, okay, I'll switch. And now I got this other thing. Like Dean Wesley Smith is totally all about indie and self-publishing. And he just sees that, the traditional.
But I think that's one of the things that makes y'all, I think that's one of the things that give Writers of the Future more credibility to because, when the very first thing I ever wrote about y'all was the first year I was there, Todd McCaffrey and Dean were going back and forth like two women who had been slapping each other for 30 years or something. It was hilariously funny, but they had distinctively different views. And I was watching the winners while it was going on, because, I was sitting there videotaping and taking pictures. And I noticed they were eating it up. I mean, and it's two distinct, and it's whatever works best for you. I mean, sometimes this idea might be more suited to your personality and the way you do things. Because, I like to procrastinate sometimes. So I need some things that help me with that. It was just great. And then I watched you and Jody. I mean, it's just really, personally to me, and I do talk about y'all a lot, I do think it adds a good bit of credibility for the simple fact that you're not cookie cuttering it.
Oh, yeah. In fact, as you say, a lot of the value of the Writers of the Future week is that they hear from me and Jody Lindnye and Rob Sawyer and Dean Smith and a half dozen others. And all of our guns, as it were, are aimed in the same quarter of the compass, because we all have in common wanting big audience. Every writer wants the maximum possible audience.
Yes.
But we're not aimed exactly the same. I'll contradict something. Rob Sawyer will contradict me happily, cheerfully. And the winners can say, that bit of Rob Sawyer's advice suits me. That bit of Powers' advice, that's the only bit of Powers' advice I like, but that bit suits me. And so they can kind of, like a buffet, kind of choose the advice that strikes them as compatible, as opposed to what you could imagine, which would be one writer giving one way of doing it, which would kind of freeze out probably all of them.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
I notice they pay a lot of attention when y'all are talking. I see they follow y'all around. You can see, you can kind of see, especially when you're watching for me, because I'm outside looking in. It's you can kind of see who the students are favoring, who they're following around the most, which judges are more willing to talk, which all of y'all are willing to talk. I haven't met a judge yet that won't stop and talk to anybody who asks a question.
What are you going to do during that week?
Well, that was one of the questions I was asked. I was at Mississippi State doing a lecture on something entirely different than this. And one of the students asked me, well, if I win, would I get to talk to the judge? I said, of course you would. I said, not only that, I said, they're bad. They'll take you to lunch with them. I said, they ain't going to buy you lunch, but they'll take you to lunch with them. I said, it cracks me up. I said, they spend so much time. I said, they're with you all day. I said, they'll do 10, 12 hours. I said, this one will be here for 2 hours, every 3. And when they're breaking and going on lunches or BarCon at night, it's crazy how much.
Yeah, I like the opportunities like BarCon at night when you can sort of away from microphones.
Yeah.
Tell them like gossip. Well, you should have been at this convention in, 85 when so-and-so got drunk and fell down the stairs or something like that. It kind of the unwritten lore.
Yeah. No, it's true. And one thing too I like as well, because obviously it's a contest that was originally created by L. Ron Hubbard, is that the essays that he wrote too, because there's a definite sense that what he wrote, that the techniques and the styles and what worked back then in the 30s and 40s can still work now in terms of the philosophy and techniques that he talks about. Because I've talked to several winners and, 10, 15, 20 years after they attended the workshops. So what do you remember? Well, I remember the one about, on working out, how to making the money and working out, this like, you're the one that's the breadwinner. So you're going to set the schedule of when you're going to write, and everybody else works around that because you're the one that's making it's your storytelling. So that's paying for their house over their head. Or when he went through and analyzed all of his different genres that he wrote in, because he wrote Westerns, mystery, adventure, science fiction, fantasy, romance, and he worked out the word counts and the sales rate and price per word. And then he'd work out, okay, well, there was an apparency that this genre was better, but I had to write a lot more to be able to get the sales. So actually this one, because I had to take less time to write the stories, and so this is actually better for me. And so several people started doing their own spreadsheets to work out what's the best way for them to move forward in a living.
Oh yeah, all the advice Hubbard has in those essays on things like suspense, how to come up with ideas, how to put characters together. That stuff's timeless. I mean,
Yeah.
Homer or Shakespeare would have had the same principles.
Yeah.
And all that changes, and it changes very rapidly, is the technological opportunities. What the best technological advice is today would have looked primitive 10 years ago. And what's hot today is going to look primitive 10 years from now. But character, plot, description, suspense, those are always going to be necessary and effective and vital.
Right. That's true. And it's the other thing too that's good about Rise of the Future is that the winners, I mean, they become their own group, their own, Dean's still in touch with people from 40 years or 41 years ago that was in his winning group. But then they also have relationships with the judges who they make a relationship with. And a lot of times you'll see, here they come with their first novel, and there's a quote from Tim Powers or from Dean Smith or from, Rob Sawyer. And it's so cool seeing that. It's just, it really is, Rise of the Future really is a family.
Yeah. And as you say, it doesn't end when everybody gets on an airplane and goes home.
Yeah.
I'm still in email correspondence with any number of them from all sorts of previous years.
Yeah.
It's a nice sort of club family to be in.
Yeah. And it's I really enjoy too, like this last year when we had in volume 40 is there was that one story, Butterside Down. I love that story from Cal M. And she was so quiet and reserved and thinking that she was the only one, that she was weird because of what she liked to do as a writer of fantasy and science fiction. And then she got here and everybody was just like her.
Yeah.
And she was like, all of a sudden you see her like blossom. And it was just like, she was such a lovely person. And just seeing her, like her speech that she gave at the event was very touching. But, just seeing how she said that. And that's the same thing like Sean Tan, almost 40 years ago, he was an illustrator winner way back in volume 4 or 5 or whatever it is. And he thought he was out there in the middle of nowhere in I guess either New Zealand or Australia. And he thought he was the only one that liked doing this weird, fantastical art. And when he came out to LA or wherever they had the event that year, I guess it was in New York, he said, I found people like me. I wasn't alone. And
in fact, that's one of the beauties of the way Hubbard set it up. It's for beginners.
Yeah.
Old established pros are not eligible. The whole specific purpose of it is to find people who have not been prominent, have been unknown, and suddenly switch them across the line into pro.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought that has been really the major virtue of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That you suddenly say, wow, where has this kid been? I think nowhere. Before this, he wasn't anywhere. I think what a great thing to have a market exclusively for people who have not yet arrived.
Yeah, and so many of the people that are major players now in the genre are either honorable mentions, finalists, or winners. You mentioned Eric Flint. He was a winner. He said, I totally owe my success in my career to winning Rise of the Future. We had Dave Wolverton. He was a winner in volume 3. But
any number.
But you also have people too that even Rob Sawyer, he never won, but he was an honorable mention. He was given that encouragement. Brandon Sanderson, he was nothing but rejections. Then he got his first honorable mention, and that was like gave him it's like, okay, I've got something to go on, and Joe Hill was an honorable mention in Writers of the Future. So you got so many people that had their toes in the water and got that initial recognition, from this contest, and they've gone on, and it's I see it more and more coming up where about once every week or two, I'll see a press release where someone with their first, novel being published and I won honorable mention. It's no longer honorable mention isn't a reject. It was a level of win. I won honorable mention in Writers of the Future, and they'll put that in their press release. So it's true, and your name gets taken out of a slush pile because you're in the top 10% if you get an honorable mention. It's known.
And of course, this discovery of new writers would be valuable at any time. It would have been valuable in the 50s. But now, with such a flood of new writers coming along, like a stampede, and people are independently publishing, I think new writers especially need something like the contest that can lift them out of the flood and make them visible.
I think it's like, I forget the number right now. It's like 3 or 4 million new books a year are written. It's just, that's just crazy. That's mind boggling. That's that much there that gets done. So you're right. How do you get yourself that attention and that notice? And obviously winning, being published in Rise of the Future is one of the highest honors you can get, at least in the genre of science fiction and fantasy. But now that they use it, I was a finalist, honorable mention, also lifts you out of that flood of just, some of the stuff is just really, some of the stuff is tripe, but how can you tell? All you need is a good title. Well, this could be pretty good.
I think probably if you add in all the self-published Kindle things, probably most of it is tripe.
Yeah.
And how do you tell which ones are going to glow in the dark? I'm glad I came along when I did. Back.
Well, so am I, but still, because you came along also later too. But yeah, we're definitely all the better because you did come along when you did.
Yeah, it is good to have something that makes you stand out, be visible. And honorable mention winner, grand prize winner, all of those serve that function.
Yeah. So speaking of traditional versus indie, do we have Dean? Is he there in the waiting room there?
No, I haven't seen him yet.
Did you send him the link?
I did twice, yeah.
Yeah.
I sent him two at 5 minutes till, and then I sent it to him a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
I would love to co-teach with Dean, because
that I would love. I might pay money for that one.
Yeah, because we disagree on just about everything, but we get along real well. We happily contradict each other.
Yeah, we'd have to video record that one. That would be worth it. It would just be too much.
Yeah.
I'd definitely be there for that.
It's very valuable to have that contrast, because I think a rational member of the audience would say, okay, Dean Smith is a little crazy over here. Powers is a little crazy over there. Let's take their more rational positions and see if we can't follow those.
Yeah.
It's it would be fun. It would definitely be fun.
Yeah.
And they would definitely learn stuff. I no doubt about that part. They would definitely.
I would learn stuff.
It's Jeffrey Dean's got a lot of books. He's a prolific writer, and he's a self-publisher. Yes, and he's an ornery SOB, man.
And very funny. Always a lot of great stories.
He can crack me up sometimes. He was telling me about start from the back, take the end of the story and put it forward. Because we were talking about what advice should we be giving to people. Because I get asked a lot when I'm doing lectures. For some reason now, anytime I lecture anywhere, even if it's on radio, someone's always got to call in and ask me about Writers of the Future. And I asked him, and he said, well, just tell them, if they want to try to win, you got to get the judge's attention. You can't just start off with this meandering bullshit for the first 3 pages, because it's never going to make it to Jody.
I know it.
Which means it's never going to make it to y'all. And
yeah. That's always. That's
no,
always...
Christopher, it's Blind Judge. Oh, I know for a fact it is. I've personally been there. I've watched the whole procedure from start to finish. I can tell you it's on the up and up. I haven't seen any funny monkey business anywhere. No, that's why I went down there, because poor John, I abused him for like a year and a half. And because I didn't believe it, because, Blind Judge, you bring him down, you fly him down, you fly him from anywhere in the world. I'm like, get out of here, man. I'm thinking you get there, they're going to want like $500 or something, and then, you pay for their hotel rooms and shit. I was like, get the hell out of here. And then all these famous writers come down and talk to him. I'm like, y'all smoking crack over there. And of course, he said, well, get your ass down here and find out for yourself, which is what I did. And ever since I've been there, I mean, I'm one of y'all's biggest advocates now. Because then I do talk to, a lot of times I do a lecture at colleges. And when they ask me, I just tell them, I said, you've got to get their attention. I said, you're not going to win if you send in some la bullshit. It may be a good story at the end, but it's never going to get to the people.
No one will ever know. The end may as well be blank pages.
Yeah, might as well.
Nobody will ever walk all the way to there.
Yeah.
I'm always telling them the same thing. I said, start it out, get it to grab them. So if you can grab the attention of these proofreaders in the first 3 pages, it'll make it to the boss. If she likes it, it'll get to the judges. And I said, the judges will judge it. I said, and they don't know who y'all are. They don't know what color you are. They don't know what sex you are. They don't know anything really until they read the story. And then I said, they get a number. And they're like, no, really? I said, yeah. I said, that's kind of like, I was hoping that was bullshit, but it's actually true. It's like,
yeah, it's always interesting when at a convention, say, if there's a Writers of the Future panel, people in the audience will ask, well, what sort of stories do you want? What sort of stories does Writers of the Future prefer? And really the answer is anything under the umbrella of science fiction and fantasy. It isn't simply one sort of subgenre. It's the whole spectrum.
Yeah.
If you wanted to narrow it down and say, well, we like this sort, but we don't like that sort, all you could say is we like the well-written ones and we don't like the poorly written ones. But aside from that, everything is welcome. Everything is, seriously considered.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because there's not a lot of times in anthologies there's a theme.
Right.
There's no theme. It's just it's
right.
a genre. It's speculative, So that's
which I think it's what leads to way better stories.
Yeah.
Because if you say, okay, here's an anthology about legumes. You can write a story about lima beans. You can write a story about pinto beans. But it's all got to be about vegetables. Obviously, you're not going to get, except by wildest coincidence, the writer's best work. It's going to be them bending to conform to your arbitrary theme. But yeah, Writers of the Future, you arrive with your own theme.
Yeah. And what's good too is that sometimes once in maybe you do or don't consider that it's a constraint that you've got now, Tim, but you're known for the type of story that you write. You've got this paranormal fantasy that you find some piece of factual history that you fill in the blanks, and that's what you do. You take a famous person like you did with what's his name, the one that was blacklisted from Hollywood. He went to England and he came back. He was in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and he was blacklisted by McCarthy as being a communist in the 50s.
Oh, well, now that may be Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, Charlie Chaplin. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And he wrote that about him and his star there in the Walk of Fame.
Right.
I was like,
oh yeah,
you did that whole thing, and it's like you did a lot of research, but you filled in. But that's what you are. That's what you do when you write. So you're kind of like that's what people will expect. At least that's what I expect when I read one of your books. Whatever time period it is, you're going to take something that happened for real and you're going to fill in the holes with something that you say is plausible, but it's always paranormal. But these writers here have nothing that they're constrained to. It's like, it's all virgin turf for them. They're just like,
oh yeah,
it's like, I'm coming with the best of this. Is hit me with your best shot, and here you go. This is what I got. Like Wolf Moon, when he did his Super Duper Moon Girl, it's like, who would have thought?
Right. Oh yeah, they're likely to surprise us by having just organically all on their own come up with their own perspective.
Yeah.
And it's very likely that you'll say, wow, I never read anything like that before.
Yeah.
Well, of course you haven't, because you haven't read any of their stuff before.
Right.
And yeah, Writers of the Future does leave it wide open for them to fully use their own perspectives. And they arrive, from God knows where, England, the Midwest, anywhere.
Yeah.
And they're going to be very independent voices.
Yeah, and these are the voices you're going to be reading half a dozen years down the road. Now, this is going to be the future of science fiction and fantasy. Like you wrote that one article about 5 years ago on steampunk. You put in there, but the first steampunks that were really being written that were in Writers of the Future, those stories there, about 5 or so years before they became like a separate section in maybe then it was still B. Dalton and Walden books.
Yeah.
But in the stores, it was Writers of the Future that had it going there first before it became a major genre or subgenre.
Yeah, it takes the literary world a while to recognize a new thing.
Yeah. Uploading your consciousness in an AI was like 20, 30 years ago was being done with Writers of the Future before it became, however many years later, it became like, oh yeah, that's old school. Everybody knows about that. Well, not when it started with Writers of the Future.
Yeah. I think it's a very big benefit to the field, not just to those writers.
Yeah. So now, have we got anything else? Is Dean? Is he like?
I haven't seen him. No, he's
Yeah, when I went off, I tried calling him. I didn't get an answer, and then I called Carmen, and he's trying to reach him right now too.
Sometimes the time zones screw people up because we're all switching time zones and all. And I'm in Central, which when you're out west or you're out east, sometimes you get the time wrong. Especially
he's in Las Vegas. He's the same as us right now.
Yeah, so he's 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 3:20 there. He might be thinking 5:10 y'all's time if Carmen did. And I didn't look to see what the email said from Carmen.
Yeah.
Usually Carmen's pretty good though.
Yeah. So then, Tim, with respect to like somebody who wants to get a break in or get going on writing, what would be some of like the rudimentary tips? I mean, you're obviously have been talking about Writers of the Future, but different people say like, well, you got to start and you got to finish what you start and send it out like the
yeah. Well, I would also say it's a big help if you are widely read. You should be very familiar with the genre you're writing in, but you should also be very familiar with sort of fiction at large, nonfiction at large. You want to have as broad a literary footprint as possible, because every writer you're familiar with can teach you certain techniques. You say, like, if I'm moving along writing a book, I'll think, oh, remember what John D. MacDonald did in that Travis McGee novel? Or remember what, Mark Twain did in Huckleberry Finn? Or remember what Heinlein did? Or Henry Kuttner or Bradbury? The more widely read you are, the more tools, as it were, you have within hand's reach. And so I would say read a whole lot. And then, yes, write. And one thing I had to learn when I was in college is, yes, write regularly, write every day, or at least, every week, but keep writing the same story. I always, in college, I'd get in the mood, and at night I would sit down and I'd write chapter 1, and I'd write 3 or 4 pages and think, good work, put it away. And the next night I'd be in the mood again, and I'd write on a piece of fresh paper, chapter 1. And so I wound up with a whole lot of chapter 1s that never got past the 3rd page. And eventually I thought, you know what? Why don't you, when you're in the mood to write, continue one of those beginnings and then do it again until maybe you actually get to an ending. Then you'll have a thing instead of all these little false starts.
Well, that's good. Yeah, and that's one thing too is I think some people unfairly will say, okay, I'm a writer, and just, oh, what have you published as the automatic, conclusion to say I'm a writer. Whereas it's okay if a person say, I play guitar. Nobody asks you, well, what band are you in? You just, okay,
That's right.
You play guitar.
Yeah.
Or you play tennis, and like, oh yeah, I'm going to go up there and I'm in the finals in the whatever, tournament. You got to give yourself a learning curve there to write. You've got to be able to just be willing to throw away some of the stuff as just being, bad.
Oh, I don't know how y'all do it. It irritates me. Yeah, I'll sit down. So this is what's funny. This I don't know what this is, but this is what's funny. I always tell John I'm translating Elron when I'm in LA. Because I can sit down in LA like 2:00 in the morning in front of a computer and write like 8, 10, 12,000 words. Just like I'm in a zone or somewhere zoned out. Now, of course, when I go back and read it, I've missed all kind of stuff that I'd have to go back and change or add. And thank God for spell correct and grammar correct and every other damn thing. But it's not that so much as I leave out pieces somehow. I leave out pieces of the story, which is irritating because I got to go back and read, and then I got to go back and find it in my damn head so I can put it back on the damn paper. I don't know how y'all do it without just getting just frustrated beyond belief. I had done over there 4 years with them doing that. It was, plus what I did, it was around 60,000 words. You know what I did with it? Delete. I said adios amigos, man. I said I was so mad when I read through it. I had to hit delete. I was going to throw my $5,000 computer out of the window somewhere, so I didn't want to do that.
Well, it's like I said, you have to expect first draft, first approximation, first assembly to be pretty bad. I mean, I'll reread, you write, I don't know, 40 pages or so, and then I reread it and I think, Lord, this is really stupid. My first drafts read like people in street clothes standing on a bare stage holding like scripts and looking at tape marks on the floor. And I think it's first draft. It's okay. Go through it again and you'll find the dialogue gets more spontaneous sounding. They got correct clothing on. There's real liquor in the drinks. I look at first draft as kind of a pile of bricks and lumber dumped in my yard, and I'm then free to assemble it.
I can understand that analogy because I actually do that. So.
And of course, a lot of it you throw out. You think, well, that's I don't know why I ever ordered this. This is no good.
I just taught a guy yesterday how to build a brick barbecue place in your backyard. He's all in heaven with himself now, man.
And sometimes too, I know that people will write, and then what Jody or one of the other judges will say, look at, well, your story actually begins here on page 40 or page 60 or in chapter 5. That's when your story actually starts.
Yes. That's I think Hemingway said any story could be improved by throwing away the first 2 or 3 pages and letting the next complete sentence be the first sentence of the story. That's real good advice. I mean, I like to think I'm aware of it now and that I mentally throw away that useless first chapter before I actually start. But it's a very valuable point. Yeah.
And you also need to, sometimes you need to, I mean, I've talked to some authors too, that they will write a whole lot in a lot of exposition and a lot of dialogue and stuff, before they finally get that persona down, then they can lose that stuff because now they have the essence of that person, and they can say the few things they need to say that conveys that character, that you know who they are without having to say that they were this, that, the other thing, 6'1", and they had 250 and all these different things about them. You just, the way they act or the way they move, you automatically know they're 6'1", 240 pounds, this, that, and the other thing, just by what you're now saying about them. But you need to create that in order to be able to delete it and just know that these actions are that person.
Yeah, it's like scaffolding when you're putting up a building. You need it, but when the building's done, you realize you don't need the scaffolding anymore.
Right.
Yeah, it's some of the writers of the future, fellow judges would disagree with me, but I would say it's not something you want to pursue if you're in a big hurry. It's like somebody say, you hear of lawyers and doctors who quit their practice and say, I've written a book. Now I will make heaps of money, and it better happen before June. And you think, well, no, it doesn't happen fast, man.
Yeah. Well, that's that whole conference that happened. I don't know if it's still going in, the 20 books to 50K. You need to build up, because also if somebody finds a book of yours and they like it, a lot of readers now, the people that are definitely the big readers, the whales, what else has he written? And then once they like you as an author, they find this book from Tim Powers. Okay, good. Now I'm going to read everything from Tim Powers. And so now that one new reader is going to buy your past 20 books. That's a big part of how you're able to make bank with your career as an author.
And thank God for that reader. I admire that reader's industry.
But it's easy to do that too now with the Kindle.
Yeah. And of course, these days, the traditional publishers that I favor, they also do ebook versions.
Yeah.
And I've sometimes found, looking at a royalty statement, that I'm actually making more money off my ebook versions than my paper versions.
Yeah.
Which you think, well, okay, hooray, good. Not going to turn it down. Although I always think, well, it's supposed to look like a book.
Yeah, but the thing is, like right now, okay, I've got this book here, but this is volume 40, and so that implicitly suggests that there's 39 copies before this that you're not going to find in a bookstore. So now that you can find it, you can go to Kindle and find these things here. Then you can actually go back and you can get On Stranger Tides. That'll probably be found in bookstores because of the tie-in with the movie. But you got other books of yours that Barnes and Noble is not going to carry, or that that Books A Million won't carry, or other chains.
Sure.
But Kindle can carry it because.
Yeah, it's infinite.
Yeah, or Amazon. Maybe Amazon will have earlier ones that aren't in bookstores, because bookstores have a finite shelf space, whereas Amazon seems to have pretty large shelf space in their inventory, and definitely the ebooks is infinite. So there is that value, and for me now too, because I read so much, it comes in handy. Like I've got an actual print book at my desk with an author I met at Salt Lake City FanX, and then I also have Julie, the one that wrote the werewolf story several years ago. She's got a book that came out, so I got that one. I'm about ready to read that one too, and then I've got I'm ready to interview the publisher of Oasis Audio. So I've got an audiobook which I'm listening to on my phone, and then I've got Douglas Richards, who's I really enjoy his science fiction. He lives in San Diego, but I've interviewed him before, so I've got his ebook. So I've got in the middle of 4 books. So sometimes it just comes in really handy, whichever device I can do to be able to get through these things here. And I've got so many books now. I can't deal with, like, I don't have a room like what you've got there behind you. and above you and around you.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think I have 50 or 60 books on my Kindle, because, like, if you're at a hotel, I'd like to have a big pile of books available, but I can't,
Yeah, it's
pack
too much to
extra
carry.
luggage.
Yeah.
But with my phone and Kindle, I've got almost any book I can think of available to me.
Yeah, or when I'm flying, I don't want to
Yeah.
watch the movie. I can just have a book there and read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I put everything on my pad. That way I can, when I'm traveling, I can go ahead and read it. But I was thinking about this when we were talking. I noticed the sale of audiobooks used to be 9%, and they said it's going to be 27% this year, $2 billion. It's growing fast.
Well, audiobooks is what saved the publishing industry during the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
It was audiobooks that had the increase. I just finished interviewing the president of, I did Christian Audio, the guy that created Christian Audio. I had him as a guest a few weeks ago. And then Sean McManus, who's the president of the Audio Publishers Association, but he's also the president of Blackstone. I think it's Blackstone. But anyway, it's and I've had several people in the industry on, but it continues to grow and grow. And now, because of the AI, what they're doing is they're taking books that would never be made into an audiobook because they can't afford to do that. The production cost of hiring somebody to do it.
Oh.
But for some book that was published 20 years ago, 15 years ago, they can just put them in there, or the stuff that's in public domain. You can take, there's the right way to do it and the wrong way to do it. One, you can steal somebody's voice and say, okay, this is in the voice of Marilyn Monroe, which is just totally like wrong. Or you can take some, famous actor like Tom Cruise and just like steal his name without his permission.
Ah.
Or they'll take an actor and have them read a book. And then they'll pay them royalties on the use of their voice.
Yeah.
And because the book has all these words in it, the computer can then take that and use that to then do another audiobook.
Yeah.
The only problem with stuff is like with computers, like the person can actually tell the difference of reading a section. This is where the next stars are born, or this is where the next stars are born.
Yeah.
Where a person reader could actually distinguish that, whereas the computer is more going to just read it, not knowing where to put the inflection to make it, really appeal like a real live voice talent will do. So it's not there yet, but the older books that would never otherwise have an opportunity to be made into an audiobook can enjoy that, little bit of sunshine on their existence.
Yeah. And I kind of would like an AI voice, because I don't like in audiobooks where they do different voices, like, get down from there. I won't. You better. I think, hey, take it easy. It's not a performance. Just read the damn thing to me. You don't have to act it out.
Yeah.
So the AI might just, read it flat, which I would prefer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the stories that we do, maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't heard, the audiobooks that we do are all radio theater. So that's
which is a whole format.
That's a whole different thing there, because then we have, if it requires an old man, we have an old man doing it. If we have a young man, we have a young man. If we have,
and you'll have sound effects.
Lots of sound effects, and they're authentic sound effects. And if we have a 10-year-old boy, we have Nancy Cartwright, who's the voice of Bart Simpson.
Yes, right. Well, as you say, it's a radio drama.
Yeah,
that's a different form.
Yeah, that's a totally different form.
I'm going to have to be signing off before too long here.
Yeah,
we'll let you get John and I can wrap it up, but it's because it's always great having you on. I mean, you're a wealth.
That was awesome. It was so much appreciated having this much time talking with you, Tim.
Oh, it's always fun, As a matter of fact, I keep thinking we got to drive up to Hollywood and hang out with you people a bit.
Well, that'd be good. Next time you come in this way, let me know. We can go have lunch at what's your favorite restaurant there? It's
Musso and Frank's.
Yeah, Musso and Frank's. We can go have lunch or dinner there.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
Okay, well, gentlemen, it's been fun.
Thank you very much. And
Yeah, thanks for coming and hanging
you
out with
say
us.
hello to your beautiful wife for me too, please.
I sure will. Talk to y'all later.
Okay, bye-bye, Tim.
Okay,
Well-
where were we at? Well, I don't know what happened to Dean. I guess he's on vacation somewhere. You know, his old lady might have smacked
he's
him
missed the
around
time
too.
zone.
So.
Yeah, sometimes this happened to me before, and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought it was, you know."
Yeah, I'll have to bring you one of them watches next time I see him that shows you what time zone. What time, it's got all the time zone times on it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine got one. It's one of them special watches. He goes, now I always know what time zone. Somebody said, because he does a lot of guesting, and he was constantly missing shows. I'm like, dude, just write it on your computer, write it on a pad. This always translate your time into when you see a thing, you always translate it so you know. Because a lot of people just write down. I notice especially people overseas, they'll just write down the time and not think about that it's 8 hours, or 8 hours difference, or 6 hours difference, or 10 hours difference. So they're waiting on a call that ain't going to happen for 10 hours. And I'll get these messages or phone calls. I'm like, no, it's showing for like 8 hours. What are you texting me for?
Yeah. There's an app that I downloaded where I can just download all the different time zones. And so then, automatically, if I say, okay, if I'm going to, where do I need to schedule to be able to have them when they're going to be awake, or when they need to schedule for when I'm awake? And I can put in, half a dozen different time zones, different cities, and it puts in the time zone exactly, it moves around so I can just see what time it is there when it's the time I do it in LA.
I think I know about half of them by heart. The ones I use the most, I know like when somebody asked me about Sydney, well, Sydney's actually a day ahead of us. If it's 12 o'clock here, maybe 12 o'clock lunchtime there, the next day, not the same day. So they're always ahead of us.
Yeah, they're day ahead.
And they can be anywhere from 16 to 20 hours.
I did something in South Africa, and then, okay, what time is it there? And then I do something in London. Then I got something in Paris. Then I do something in the Middle East. And I'll get confused. And then the thing that really confuses me, or used to, is when I put a meeting in my phone when I'm going to be at a convention, and then I travel to the convention, it doesn't automatically convert to the new time zone. It's in my old time zone. So then I miss it. So then I have to make sure that I change all my meetings to the time zone I'm in. So I have it correct, because I used to miss them. Like, oh no, because I put it when I was in LA, and then when I went to New York at a show like in Book Expo or something like that, and I'd miss it by 3 hours. Like, what happened? And then it was because it didn't automatically transfer the meeting time to the new time zone. It still kept it in Pacific instead of switching to Eastern. So I had to manually go through and switch it, which I can do now. Or when meetings set up in Frankfurt, Germany, when I go for Frankfurt Book Fair, I got to make sure when I schedule it, I put it in Frankfurt time when I schedule a meeting. So it looks odd for LA, but then when I get to Frankfurt, then it's the correct time. So that's something that took me a while to learn that.
Yeah, well, my software, my computer converts it automatically for me. But I know, like I said, more than half of them because I've used them so much. I mean, like for London's only 6 hours difference from me to them, and then you cross the channel at Paris is about 7. You get to Germany, Italy, I think is about 8. I'd have to look, but most of them I know because we've had guests from those areas, and we have so many people come from the UK. Somebody the other day said, "Well, what about Canada? Don't they have a different time zone?" I said, "Canada has the same time zone as we do." I'm like, well, no, they can't.
Side, but then just north of me, they also have 3 different hours. They got Eastern, Central, and Western.
Yeah, well, so you get so between you and I, it's 2 hours, and then. But it's strange. It's strange because New York's ahead of us. So for me, it's New York's ahead of us by an hour, and then we're even. And then Pacific time, or whatever they call it, Mountain time, is an hour behind us, which confuses me sometimes because there's not that many states actually fall into it, but they do. Mm-hmm. And then of course California is or anything on the West Coast is 2 hours. And what is Hawaii? I think it's 4 hours.
Yeah,
4 or 5 hours. I have to go look for sure, but it's no people. Hawaii's way out in the ocean.
Yeah, And I've done stuff also in Guam and Netherlands and Antilles, and
Yeah.
so that's 4 hours. And that's an hour further out, ahead of me.
Yeah, it gets weird. But I just try to add them in. And usually what I do, and anytime I see a guest that's overseas, I'll convert it for them before I'll send it to them. I'll say, okay, it's going to be 4 my time, but it's going to be 2 a.m. your time. And I do that a lot of times just because I want to know it might be early in the morning. I was doing, it was funny. I was doing a guest. Where was he? Somewhere, I think it was in Singapore. Anyway, but it was, they were 10 hours. It was it was going to be 6 a.m. his time. And, he's like, damn, John, get 6 a.m. for nobody. I said, well, you don't have to get it. We can do it later. I said, we can do a pre-record. He said, oh, no, I want to do it live. I said, well, then your ass has got to be up at 6 a.m. You want to do it live. Because that's when the live audience is. And
yeah. But then it gets confusing, too, because you got places like Arizona and Nevada, which don't change the time zone. So then when you change which is it seems so unnecessary these days to have that time zone change, but it still happens. Then sometimes I'm the same time as Arizona, and sometimes it's an hour difference, or Las Vegas in Nevada, and it just gets
So for me, it's either an hour behind or 2 hours behind.
Yeah.
And I got friends out there, and sometimes I forget. It changes.
Yeah, exactly.
And really and truly, they need to fix that.
Yeah, well,
but I don't know. I listened to Congress argue about this just recently, because it had passed in one house a couple of years ago, but didn't pass in the other house.
Well, Ben Franklin was one of the ones that originally thought of that idea.
Well, I understand. There's a couple of reasons why. I mean, one, it's great for harvesting stuff, so different times of the year you get more daylight. But so the argument I've been listening to is which one are we going to keep? Are we going to keep the one that's going on now where it gets dark way earlier? Or are we going to keep the other one where it stays lighter so I don't know. I mean, I don't really like it getting dark at 5 o'clock.
No, I definitely don't like that.
At least if we were another time, it would be getting dark at 6. I could deal with that. But, because, in the summertime, it don't get dark down here almost 9 o'clock. So I'm kind of like, no, this is bullshit. It's, what's that, Jimmy? Oh, yeah, it was 10 pounds. Yeah. On a Stranger Tides, I believe is what the book is called.
On Stranger Tides. That's the one book that was made into the movie.
Yeah.
Pirates of the Caribbean.
It created a franchise. Yeah, he had a hard time with that. Yeah, they gave him a bunch of shit. They didn't give him credit in the beginning. It's it's Hollywood though. They do that. Any chance Hollywood can get around something and save themselves some money, they're going to do it. That's just who the beast is.
And then they go and spend $100,000 on a premiere shutting down Hollywood Boulevard, and it's just crazy to be able to kowtow to the big name actors that they've got, so they can then stroke their egos.
Right. But I think we're going to see a lot of changing in a lot of stuff. One, I think Hollywood has outlived its usefulness because you're starting to see more and more movies made in New Orleans, a lot of them being made in Atlanta. Matter of fact, I listened to Governor Newsom just recently. He was encouraging everybody. They were trying to get.
That's your risk.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to get. Well, I was listening because they were talking about the movie industry and they're upset because right now more than I think 62% of movies being made are not being made in Hollywood anymore. They're being made elsewhere. And they're not even a lot of being made in Canada, and so it's
New Zealand, Australia,
Bollywood. So it's cheaper when you can go. It's a shame that you can go out of the country and save money than make it in Hollywood. So I mean, so he decided they're going to drop their taxes really low, so they got a chance. So that's what they were going to do. And then he looked at New Orleans taxes, so they would be about even what New Orleans charges. They couldn't even come close to what Atlanta did. That's how Atlanta got the hub. Atlanta basically said, you don't have to pay taxes here. We'll make money in other ways off of y'all. So like with the hub, they don't need a tax money off the hub because they make a fortune off of people coming and going, off of taxi cabs, off of food, all kind of stuff. Same thing with Hollywood. All those people have to have somewhere to stay. They all got to eat. They all got to get around. So Atlanta is a different kind of city. They don't need to tax their businesses out of existence. So that's why they get them. And
they just raised the minimum wage $22.50 for people in the hospitalities industry, getting ready for all the people coming. It's just it's criminally insane, and they wonder why it's so expensive to live here in California. Who can afford to pay $22.50 unless you raise the price of everything? So now all the prices.
So watch now. There's going to be an exemption for California. Because Trump and them want to get rid of paying for anybody and getting tips to not have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make $20 an hour plus tips, I don't know. They're going to probably want taxes then. They're going to be like, wait a minute now, that's making it good. I mean, because you figure $20 an hour plus tips, you're making $30-40 an hour. Oh yeah, you should be paying taxes on that. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but we'll see. What's that, Clara? Yeah, we'll see how all that goes. Writersofthefuture.com. Yeah, it tells you everything you need to know right there on the website. Oh, excuse me. No, really, everything you need to know is right there on the website.
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop because there you can find entering the contest, writer or illustrator. We have the free online workshop. We have the podcast. We have a forum, a writer's forum that you can join for free, or you can just go there and lurk around and just see what's happening in there. It's won best forum for the last 3 years. Then we've got all the 41 years or last 40 years of the history of Writers of the Future. You can see, and then you can also see the whole ceremonies. You can go there and click on the links and watch them. And then you can see all the cool judges, past
that
and
was
present,
Helen
writers and
Morehouse from.
illustrators.
She wrote Helen Morehouse from somewhere in Maine. I imagine it's pretty damn cold.
Hello, Helen.
She just wanted to know what the rules were because she wanted to know what she could write is what she wanted to know because I told her she was.
Yeah, so if you go to enter writer contest, it has like what the rules are. There's like 7 or 8 of them that just breaks it down what can write, what can't.
And no AI people.
Yeah, we don't accept AI stories or art, and we do check
over that. Yes, they do. So you need. What was that, Jack? The chat's going to air. It's going to probably start airing after this show, maybe at 8. I don't know. We haven't made up our mind 100% yet. I got to talk with Jay about it, but it will be back on air. Yes, I know. Well, people keep asking me about it. Well, it was just something we threw together. We were only going to do it once a month. Yeah, we just initially put it together to have a place that we could all just chit chat about in general stuff, not focused topics or anything, just chit chat. I should have named it chit chat. It probably would have been better. Maybe it might have had a better. No, it's just called the chat because that's what it is. It's just chatting. Oh, a lot of people call in, a lot of people write in. A couple people even joined us in the room. They asked if they could come join us in the room. Well, I think it's because on that particular show, we must have crossed 15 topics, 16 topics. Yes, and they were all interesting topics. Well, it's just how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And it'll have variant host. Yeah, like News on the Flip Side does. It'll have variant host. It won't always have the same host. Well, I'll be there most of the time, but I do travel some, so, you know. Well, that's like this show, John could host if I wasn't here. And Jay could host the other one if for some reason I was traveling. But usually the way my things are set up, even when I'm doing lectures, unless I have something scheduled at the time of the show, I still do the show from wherever I'm at. Yeah, it doesn't matter. As long as I got my laptop with me or even my pad, I can do the show. I can even do it on my phone if I want to, but I just don't like to. Yeah, that's the whole point. Well, John was on air with us when he was in Germany just recently. Yeah. It's not like the old days where you had to get all this fancy equipment and spend all these millions of dollars and go to these production stations. It's we can do quality productions anywhere in the world now. Anyway, don't matter where are you. As long as you got an internet connection, or if you've got a sat phone, we can do you anywhere in the world. I do own a sat phone. I do. I never use it because it's outrageously expensive. But when I go places, because there are places still in the United States that don't have GPS, no cell connections, no cell phone connections, no nothing. So if you're driving with your navigation, it just goes because it can't connect to anything. So it's good to have the sat phone, because the sat phone you can hook up to the internet wherever you are, and then you can hook it to your phone, and all your stuff on your phone will work. Yeah, except for the phone. The phone has to run through the sat phone. No, it's crazy expensive. It's like $10 a minute or something. The phone wasn't cheap either. The phone cost me $950, I think. It's a cool little thing. It's got a little pad on it and all. It's I got it because I do research in places that sometimes you should have an alternative phone with you. Yes, in case something goes foobar. Well, you'd be surprised how many places inside the United States you cannot get cell connection or satellite connection. You'd be surprised. I mean, or you can get satellite connection anywhere in the world, but you'd be surprised how many places you can't. You can't get your cell won't connect. Nothing will connect. You don't have no internet, no cell. It's kind of weird. Even in local states, I was just not long ago driving through Mississippi through one of the forests. All of a sudden, there was nothing, no connection of any kind. So I stopped, got in the trunk, popped out the sat phone, set it up on the dash, hooked it all together, hooked it to my phone, and nav came back on, and away we went. I started doing that because we were in Arkansas one time, and we were in a forest, and all of a sudden there was no connection. We had about half a tank of gas. And there wasn't nothing. We got to a four-way stop, and there wasn't nothing in any direction, any way you look. It was like, which way should you go? I said, well, we're going south. We're just going to keep going south. Eventually, we ran into a road, and then we ran into a cell phone tower and got connection again. After about an hour and 40 minutes of driving, yeah. We were down to about a little less than a quarter of a tank when we finally got cell service. Yeah, well, and then when you get stuck in the middle of nowhere without a phone, I mean, come on. It's crazy stuff. What do you mean? LA got a cell connection every 8 feet. I did see those new pretty little stars going down. No, John lives there. He can go walk out there and step and stomp on the stars, but I can just watch them from TV. If you're gonna buy a book, I imagine this is Emily's last day out there, huh? She wraps up. What she ought to be wrapping up about 2 hours.
Yeah, they're going to be done in about an hour.
So
they've been really rocking it. They had just she loves it. She's there's just the cowboys and the ranchers, and he fell with little. I guess he's 8-year-old with his hat and his boots, and he was there. He got one of the books, was holding. He's just as cute as she said. Oh, he's so cute. And he's got a book. His dad came up and paid for it. And so she totally loves whenever I'm pretty much set. So whenever a little baby comes by, she's out of there. She's over there with, talking to him and giving a bookmark. And if there's a baby crying, she's just like over there. She's going to do everything she can to get him to stop crying and just get their attention on something there. And she just loves that. But, no, today is day 10, so it's been a long run. I'm very anxious for her to get home.
Yes. Bruce, go put your Elvis impersonator gear on, walk over there and say, Miss Emily, how you doing? My name's Bruce, and I came here to buy 50 books. And then when she gets them all together, say psych, and then leave.
Ooh, that would be bad.
Don't tell her I sent you. Hell no, don't tell her I sent you.
That would come back on you, Joe.
No, you can't. No, Joe, you can't tell her I sent you. No, that's part of the thing, man. You can't tell her.
I already know it now. No,
shh. China, he's gonna give you trouble. No, have you gone? I mean, I know you live right there in downtown Vegas, so yeah, he has a permanent
they're in top floor, South Hall Convention Center.
Yeah, he's got a permanent room at the Lexor. And it's their daddy bought like four rooms. I didn't know you could buy rooms in a hotel like that. Yeah, because I know they'll stinking rich. That's why. Yeah, well, that's because they stankin' ass rich. That's why.
Have him buy a Kindle. Suggest he gets a Kindle. Go to Galaxy Press and buy a Kindle and say, okay, I'm getting it because Emily and Sarah said to get it. That way they get it.
That's right. Go over there. Go over there. Go and buy something.
Yeah, they're great.
Well, imagine you got an hour.
Stories.
Oh, you got to get dressed. Oh, whatever. You're a big sissy.
Yeah, they've already bought they've sold like 1,200 books already so far.
They what's that? What do you mean you don't read books? I know you don't, but your kids and your wife does. I know because I know them.
She sent me a picture. Dennis Quaid walked by this morning, and she said Dennis Quaid came by and looked at all the books, and he bought all of them. And then she said, "Just kidding," but he came and looked at them and smiled and picked up the books and looked at them and then kept on going.
Yeah, just being interested, seeing who's there. No, Jamie, we only got about 4 minutes. Why? What do you got? No, John's not an actual author. John's the boss. He's president of Galaxy Press. Yes, he's the big kahuna. No, I don't write. No, you just missed the author. That was Tim Powers. He was on. Yeah, on Stranger Tides. He was just here a few minutes ago. We were supposed to have Dean Wesley. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him. John and I talked to him. He probably just got the time zone screwed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's behind us in time. Sarah May, we have no guys in here tonight. What's going on? No, I don't. I'm not minding. I'm just asking. You'd have to ask John. I have no. I could not give you. And John and I have talked about this before. And not just John, myself, and many authors and illustrators. I can't. It's hard for me to pick out a single book or a single song or a single movie or even a single TV series that I consider to be my most favorite. Not that I have favorites, but it's my most. I don't know if there's such a thing for me. Don might have an overall favorite, but I just as long as it's sci-fi, I'm probably okay. When I was young, if it was westerns, it was okay. But
I mean, I definitely enjoy one book I really enjoy a lot, which is Battlefield Earth. I've talked about that before. It's a really good science fiction book written by Owen Hubbard.
The book is much better than the movie.
Many weeks on New York Times. But interesting enough, there's just an article that just came out on 26 best movies, or they're like the fifth element in Star Wars. I mean, Battlefield Earth is #1 in terms of fan favorite. So it was like, you got the media can be like just totally nasty. And so they'll do that. And then you've got the trolls on the internet that like to be nasty. But you take a look at people. I find it more and more when I go to conventions that someone says, well, I actually enjoyed the movie. And so
the movie was fun. Like it's not that the movie should have been a trilogy though. Because the book is so big. The movie,
well, it was supposed to be,
just
but then it got just trounced by the media, and so that didn't go on to the next book, to the next movie.
Because there's like certain things in the movie they should have stretched out, like some of his learning stuff, some of the plane stuff, some of the stuff when they found DC. Some of that should have been stretched out so that it fell into movie 2. Well, Gene, it was hard to
they
swallow.
Did things that weren't in the book. Like the book, there's no cavemen and there's no Harrier jets in the book. But they did that because of budget, to be able to have some of the things in there. They didn't have a budget to go to Scotland and to have Scottish, which is what it is. And then they had alien aircraft is what they trained on, not Harrier jets. Because
which made more sense.
No way they'd be 1,000 years in the future. There's no way that they'd still be working.
Yeah, and besides, it would make more sense because since you were getting alien programming, it would seem that stuff would be in there. Well, no, they had those learning machines, Jack. You don't remember that? No, the movie had excellent potential, and it was fun to watch. I mean, I looked at it as a fun movie. It's just, I just personally think there was things. No, if you do the book, actually, I hate to say this, the audio book is fabulous. So
the Anubis Gates, it won every major audiobook award.
Well, it's because it's the book, not the movie. It's well, you know what? Actually, it's going to play in a couple of days. It'll be playing. It'll play a couple of days. It'll start a couple of days before Christmas, and it'll play all the way up to Christmas, and then it'll stop, and then the next day it'll start playing again all the way up through New Year's. I think it's like 6 hours a day it plays. Well, it's
47 hours long.
Yeah, it's a big story. Yeah. Well, I have twice let it run just straight through over a 24-hour period. But the problem with that is we have live shows, and the live shows just trounce over it playing in the background. It just doesn't get as many people listening to it.
Yeah.
Well, it's really fun to listen to.
Yeah.
Well, Mission Earth is fun to listen to. Y'all can't get the audiobook yet, but I've been listening to it. Matter of fact, I'm getting ready to finish it up here probably as soon as I might do it through the holidays. I got a bunch of work to catch up on. So I'll probably listen to the rest of it, book 9 and 10 through the holidays. You can buy the book. I gave away a bunch of them last year. I don't have any left, but I gave away a bunch of them last year. You can get the book. Yeah. Mission Earth. You can't get the audio book, but you can get the book. That audio book is fun as hell to listen to. Yeah, you get the bad guy, the good guy, the girl who's a bad girl, but she's kind of a good girl at the same time. No, there's a lot of stuff in it. A lot of fun stuff to listen to in it. And well, in both books cases, they really took their time with the special effects and the sounds and the voices of the actors. Because when you listen to an audiobook, if you get a nasally actor or something like that, you don't want to listen to it. It's kind of irritating. For me personally, I prefer a guy with a deeper voice or a woman with a decent voice. Either one I can listen to. Now, in these cases, there's multiple actors here and actresses. It's not just one person doing it. Even though you may have one person doing more than one role, it's not. Oh no! All I can tell you is go listen to it. It's going to play twice, so you'll be able to hear it twice. Yeah, Waterworld's a place. Yeah.
I'm going to need to ring off now, Joe.
We got to get out of here.
Just came in.
Yeah, go and get out of here. I didn't even realize we were past. John, nice talking to you, guys and girls.
Joe, be sure.
The archive is up automatically. The SoundCloud archive won't be up for about 4 or 5 days, but everything else will be up. And
if you can text me numbers, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in a little while.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for listening to this as well. We had a lot of fun.
Be good. So we're gonna play out some promos and a song, a happy Kiss Me Christmas song, and then we'll be out of here. Ginger, any moans, groans, bitches, cipes, or complaints, please write to Michelle DeRoche. Because you don't want to write to me, because I'm going to give you the bird finger. Yeah, I'm going to give you the bird finger. I am. Anyway, let me cue it. No, stop it. No. Okay, I'm going to play some promos, and then we're going to play a song, and then we're out of here. We're part of No English.
What's out there? What creates the shadows in the corners or the creatures of the dark? Who are those on the other side? What do they have to say? This is the Gateway Podcast. This is not your normal style of paranormal talk radio. Brought to you live from United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM New Orleans.
Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana Fiestro, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Well, thank you there, Lindsay, for that rendition of Carols of the Bells. We appreciate that. It's always a good song to listen to. We're getting ready to get out of here. I want to tell everyone thank you for you tuning in to United Public Radio and Authors Quill. I hope you enjoyed the show. And Tim Powers is always a lot of fun to talk to. He's a very interesting individual. He's got a lot of energy. He really knows his stuff. He's actually an excellent author. And of course, he is the author of Stranger Tides, which is what gives you the Pirate of the Caribbean movie. So it's always a good thing to have him on. What's that, Carolyn? Oh, yeah, I'm just taking a picture. I always take pictures of the shows just to see, what I was on and what I wasn't on. I take pictures with the guests, too. Yes. It's just on there, yeah, because, we do a lot of guests, and then I post them here and there from time to time. But on that note, we got to go. So, again, thank you for tuning in to United Public Radio. You are listening to Joe Montaldo on Authors Quill, and I will see y'all on Wednesday. Good night, everybody. Or maybe a little sooner. You never know.